So Stacey has joined us tonight. I've known Stacey for a very long time, since way back when she was in high school. So her and her family have lived in Manassas for a long time. You guys know Sarah. Sarah Jackson is Stacey's younger sister. And Stacey's had a pretty exciting life, I'd have to say. And through it all, has learned a lot about God, discernment, making decisions. And I just threw a few pictures up here that show some of the interesting things that Stacey's been a part of, but I won't say too much because I'm sure some of that will come into what she wants to tell us. So without further ado, I am going to actually, Stacey, do you want me to have the slides up at the beginning, or do you want me to just put you back up again?
I'll go back up and then I'll just say slide please, and you can do the slide. How's that?
That would be great. I will do my best. So welcome, Stacey.
I'm in the spotlight. Hi, everyone. How are you guys? It is such a pleasure to be with you. I just really appreciate, Rob pivoting like this. This is just crazy how much things have changed. I was so looking forward to being with you guys in person, but this is wonderful that we can do this online. And I know it's super hard to look at a screen for a long time. So I just really appreciate you guys showing up. Because I know there's a certain point where your eyes are just like, I want to explode and I just want to be around people in person. So I'm in that same boat. I live in Winchester, Virginia, so I'm like an hour away from you guys. And I live here with my husband, my 2 little babies. They're not that little, but they're 3 and 2. And I love them so much. And yeah, so as Rob said, I've had kind of an interesting journey. I started I was a musical theater performer and I wanted to be on Broadway. And I booked 2 Broadway national tours, which was really cool. And I went around the country traveling, but I started to discover that wasn't really what my heart wanted. Like I had what I wanted, but I discovered it wasn't really what I wanted at the deepest level. And then I ended up discerning religious life, and I ended up discerning on a reality television show called The Sisterhood Becoming Nuns. And Rob, I don't know if I told you this, but last month, Lifetime actually just released the show publicly on YouTube. So now you can binge watch me crying about my life choices for free. So you're welcome, everyone. Until 3 a.m. breaking the internet watching my show now. It's only 6 one-hour episodes, but it's called The Sisterhood Becoming Nuns. And that led me, really to seek my heart's desire, like to seek, to try to look at what's underneath things and not just to accept what everybody says I should want or what everybody says I should do, but to actually truly make the choices that are going to lead me to my happiest life and to God's will, which are the same thing. God's will for you is to have your happiest life. And so I want to start out today with a question for you guys. And I want anyone who likes to doodle, write this down and doodle around it. Give it all of the sparkles and the stars and the rainbows. Anyone who is likes to write in block letters, do that, make big block letters. Anyone who likes to underline this question. I want you to take this question with you from this talk into your daily life and maybe stick it on a wall somewhere, take it into your prayer time, take it into adoration. And this question is going to be something that you're going to have to return to as you go through your life. And now is such a great time to start asking it. Here's your question, okay? What am I seeking from my relationships? What am I seeking from my relationships? When I was a teenager, I would have said something like, I would have been like, well, I want a guy who's has great hair and plays guitar and, is really sweet and popular. And those are all really good things, right? Rob, if you could bring up the first slide, I think I would have wanted somebody kind of like this. First slide, here it is. Hey girl, is your name Google? Because you've got everything I'm searching for. And then the next one, please. This is irresistible, right, ladies? Hey girl, are your legs tired? Because you've been running through my mind all day. I wanted a guy to look at me like that, who was handsome and sporty and popular, and to say those kinds of things to me. But as I've gone through my life, I've realized that there is so much more to what I really, really want. So ladies, I just want you to put a little comment in the chat box that you would like for a guy to look at you like that and say those things to you. And for the guys, I'm not really sure what the equivalent is. Maybe I see some yeses, maybe I don't know, Scarlett Johansson coming up to you and being like, take me on a date. I don't know, maybe. But anyway, so I want you to ask this question. What am I seeking from my relationships? And for me, I have learned so much. I'm seeing a lot of yeses coming in. Okay. I've learned a lot about what I want in a very big way, in the biggest picture kind of way, from a couple that I've watched go through their lives. Rob, could you please bring up the next slide for me? A lot of yeses. Okay, so this is Mal and Eileen. They're beautiful, right? Look at this couple. Like, they look like they walked off of a magazine cover. This is in 1949. So Mal and Eileen were born 3 days apart in 1925. They went through the Great Depression. This is them the year before they got married. They're 24 years old. The following year, 1950, they got married. So Rob, if you could bring up the next slide, that'd be great. There's a picture of them on their wedding day. Aren't they beautiful? So this is in 1950. They made a commitment to love each other for the rest of their lives, okay? They made this commitment. They promised that for the rest of their lives, no matter what, they were going to love each other. And life was not easy for them. They had to go through a lot. So Mal went off to 3 wars and fought. And then he and Eileen had 4 children, and Eileen raised the children on her own when Mal was gone. And it was not easy. You know, they had to work really hard their whole lives, but they stayed together. And 60 years later, here they are. If you could bring up the next slide, Rob. There they are. That's in somewhere around 2010. There they are in their retirement home, and they are, they're still together. They're still loving each other. And then fast forward 9 years after that, and Mal is dying of, he has severe dementia, and he got a virus, and he was going to pass away. His organs were shutting down, and he was just, you know, preparing to meet God and not really conscious anymore. And Eileen was sitting across the room from him, looking at him with tears streaming down her face. And I was there, and I said, you know, do you want to go sit with him? Do you want to go hold his hand? And she said yes. So I brought her across the room. She was 94, and, you know, I'm just carrying her across the room to him. And she sat down, and he held her hand, and he held her hand so tight. She said, he's squeezing my hand so tight. And for the first time in about 2 days, he showed signs that he wanted to eat and drink again. And he wasn't able to sustain himself. He did pass away about 2 days later. But I went to his wake, and I wrote him a letter, and I tucked it in his hand in the casket, and it said, Grandpa, thank you so much for teaching me how to love, for showing me so much about what I want for my life, about what I want for my relationship with my husband for the rest of my life. What I want, what I am seeking from my relationship is I am seeking a relationship that lasts. I'm seeking something that is going to follow through the end, to the end of my life. You know, how many of you here, I want to see hands up, if you have seen the movie Up, and if you love that opening scene, who here cries at that opening scene? You know, you see, like, the world's going to tell you that what's really important is to to be really hot and to, you know, to have someone who's really hot on your arm and to have them like a trophy, you know, but really there's a deeper part of me that looks at that end of life and says, that's what I want. You know, my husband and I, we danced to that, in our wedding reception, that music from the opening scene of Up, that was our first dance, because that's what we want together. Yeah, somebody said that scene breaks my heart every time. I know, I love it. But it's so beautiful, to the idea of being loved throughout your whole life. So now I'm asking myself, I'm like, what do I have to do in order to be the kind of person who's going to be able to have that relationship with that person that I marry? You know, and maybe God's calling you to be a priest or a nun. But in any case, you are called to love your entire life long. So let's take our minds out of what we want right now, and then look at the big picture, look at the end of life, right? So I'm going to you guys, I'm not here to tell you how to live your lives. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I just want to illuminate truth for you. I just want to illuminate 3 areas of truth. And if you really bring these areas into your heart, if you bring these truths into your heart and you live out of them, you're going to be able to make the right choices for your relationships. So let's go ahead and look at number 1. So Rob, could you bring up the next slide, please? Ooh. So here's the first principle, the first truth that I want to share with you, which is that you are, I don't know if everybody can see this right now. I think probably we can kind of, it says you are beloved. Okay. You are beloved. So if we read the writings of St. Paul, we can see that St. Paul uses this same word. He uses the word beloved to address the Christian communities. He doesn't say to them like, hey there, people who can't hold a job, or people who like can't get a boyfriend or girlfriend, or people who are like too nerdy to function. Like he doesn't label them by their insufficiencies, nor does he say like, oh, hey there, people who are popular, people who are hot, people who have got it all together, people who know where they're going. He doesn't identify them by their successes. He calls them beloved. And we look at the second person of the Blessed Trinity, Jesus Christ, and we look at him and we look at ourselves in relationship to him. So we read also in scripture, Song of Songs, chapter 4, verse 9 is one of my very favorite verses of scripture. You have stolen my heart, my sister, my bride, with one glance of your eyes, with one jewel of your necklace. And we can read that and we can take that very, very personally. We can read scripture as though God is speaking those words to us because he is. And when you walk down the aisle to receive Jesus in Holy Communion, and I know we can't do that right now, but in general, when you walk down the aisle to receive Jesus in Holy Communion, he is looking at you as though you are his bride, and he is the bridegroom gazing at you. Now, I love going to weddings. I love seeing when the groom gets the first glance at his bride, and that is how Jesus is looking at you. And yes, that goes for the men as well as for the ladies here. He is desiring you. He has been thinking about you. There's a very deep desire that's in my heart, and that desire is to be sought after. Like I remember when I was a teenager, and maybe you guys have had this experience. Anyone like to play capture the flag? Totally. I used to do like theater group when I was in like middle school, and we played capture the flag, and I was like in love with this guy named Walter, and he was on my team, and like I got captured and put in jail. And then like Walter, I was just like longing for him to come and save me and to be thinking about me. And I just remember that so clearly. Like there's a desire in my heart to be wanted and to be thought of when I'm not there. And that's a desire that is planted deep in all of our hearts. And Jesus is the answer to those desires, right? So how do we like get that relationship with Jesus? How do we actually make that into a concrete thing? Well, just like a relationship with a person, you have to get to know him. You have to go spend quality time with him, not just a little bit, but a lot, not just Sunday mass, but like a lot of quality time with him. I received this beautiful vision of Jesus giving me his heart. He asked me to take his heart, and then he asked for my heart in return. And he asked me to put his heart where mine used to be and to keep it. And he has never asked for it back. No matter what I've done wrong, he has always told me, no, I want you to have my heart. And that is Jesus's intent toward us. And why do I share this in a relationships talk? I share this because this is foundational to who we are. And if we don't have that grounding in Jesus, we will start looking for it in somebody else, right? We will start looking for the really attractive guy or girl who's going to look at you with dewy eyes and say, you mean everything to me. And you're going to start setting too much stock in that relationship. And the truth is, like, my husband is like the best looking guy I've ever seen in my life. And he is not enough to fulfill me. Like, and I love him so much, and he loves me so much. We love each other so much, but we are not meant to fill each other's hearts. And this is actually incredibly good news. Like, this is great news for me, and this is great news for you, because number one, it takes pressure off of my husband to be my fulfillment. It means that if he were to die, or if I were to die, our lives are not over, because we are grounded, much as we love each other, we are grounded in the love of Jesus Christ. And that also means that for any of you listening who are single, who don't have that relationship, and even for the ones of you who do have a relationship, you can be happy now. You can have a deep and fulfilling relationship now. You don't have to be waiting for this perfect person to come along. Okay. So I want the takeaway from this point to be to spend time with Jesus, quality time with Jesus, quality and quantity time with Jesus. Okay. So second reality, let's go to number 2, please, Rob. You are God's child. Okay. So I want to share this little story. So I met a guy, and we were like falling in love, and it was like, oh, all the feels, we had like all the beautiful emotions, and it was all fun, and we were going on dates and all this good stuff. And he asked me to go on vacation with his family to the beach. And so I'm like packing and getting ready. And the day before I leave to go to the beach, I get like this vision of myself like wearing a nun's habit. And I had discerned religious life, like I shared before. I discerned religious life, but that door to my heart was closed. I really thought that I was called to marriage. I was like, oh my gosh, like what is happening here? I don't want to be a nun. I'm falling in love with this guy. Jesus, what in the heck are you doing? But I knew I had to give God first option in my life. So I went out to the beach, and I got there and I sat down with my boyfriend, and I looked at him and I was like, I do not know what is going on, but I might have to break up with you. I might be called to be a nun. I just don't know. And he looked at me with such perfect peace in his eyes. And he said, Stacey, I love you, but I've never felt like I owned you. And if God wants you to be a nun, I would be so happy to do whatever I can to help you get there. Just like that. No, like, what about me? What about what I want? That was it. He wanted what was best for me more than he wanted what he wanted. And I took a deep breath and I said, you are so attractive. And I said, I have to go discern this now. And I did. And I got my answer very quickly that I was not called to be a nun. And so I married that gentleman. That's my husband, John. About 9 months later, we got married. And I thought about this scenario often because, like, what kind of strength does it take to let someone go that you really, really love? It takes a lot of internal strength. It takes a real man or a strong woman to be able to let go of someone that you love. And the reason that my husband was able to do that is because he had invested 6 years of his life in discerning religious life. He had solidified his relationship with God. He understood that no matter what, he's a son of God and I'm a daughter of God. And that is a rock. That is our security right there. And so he could love me as a daughter of God and knowing that he is a son of God. And so I want you all, I see a little heart emojis. Yeah. And so I want you all to understand that your security doesn't come from a person, because like I've had this experience so many times in my life where I'm like, like a cute guy comes up and I'm like, oh my gosh, so excited. And we start dating and it's like, oh, this is so great. And then I realized that when it's time to break up, this is with my past relationships, when it was time to break up, it was like cutting off my right arm because I'd gotten so used to having this validation from this guy. And so we want our security to be in God. Like, so God is our Father, right? Okay, so we're talking about the first person of the Blessed Trinity here. This is God the Father. I didn't know what it was like to be a parent, to love like a parent, until I became one. So when I saw them for the first time, I carried them in my body for 9 months, and then the nurse placed them on my chest and I looked at their little faces, and a part of my heart just leaped out of my body. And I knew that I was forever going to have a little part of my heart walking around outside my body with my children. That is the love of a parent. And like, you can do all kinds of stupid stuff. You can mess up, and you do not have the capacity to mess up God's love for you. Like, there's like my kids, they do a lot of crazy stuff. Okay. So they like crack eggs on the floor. Anyone who wants to be a parent, just like take notes here. They crack eggs on the floor. They hide my phone. They take 1 million selfies of themselves on my phone that I have to go back and delete later, and they like wiggle and run away when I'm trying to change their poop diaper, and it's really annoying. But they don't have the capacity to make me love them any less. And that is true for God with us. We read in Romans, for you were not given a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear. You were given a spirit of adoption. So I want you to ask yourself, do you have an orphan spirit? Do you have an orphan spirit right now, or do you have a spirit of adoption? Do you have a spirit of belonging without having to belong to a person in like a romantic way? Is God truly your security? Because God has promised over and over, I will not leave you orphans. I will come to you. I will come for you. And you can pray to God and you can say, Father God, provide for me. Give me your peace. I need your peace in my heart. I need you to help me through this situation. I need you to show me what it is to be single and happy. I need you to show me what it is to be married and happy. And God is loving you so much that is the prayer that he will be so happy to fulfill for you. He's going to come for you. All right. He's going to run after you. He has sent his son, the person he loves most in the world, to die for you so that you could be with him in heaven. God the Father and God the Son have chosen us before we ever had the chance to choose them in return. Think about that for a little bit. Okay, so I know we're running out of time here, so I want to move on to my third pillar of truth tonight. So if you want to bring that up, Rob, and that is, you are a gift. You are a gift. So here's a question that's going to be really challenging for you. Are we giving or are we taking in our relationships? It's a really uncomfortable question. Do I want to be with someone because I feel like I need them to make me complete, to make me secure? Or am I more interested in proactively giving? Let me tell you, as a person who's married, there is a lot of self-gift involved in marriage. If I want to have a marriage that lasts, I have to be willing not to be, I have to be willing to sacrifice on a daily level. Like waking up 4 or 5 times throughout the night with a newborn. And it's not all sacrifice. Like, I don't want to scare anyone away. Like, it's all sacrifice and you don't get to have any fun. Marriage is super incredibly fun as well. And there's tons of beautiful, emotional intimacy. We foster that. My husband and I have a date night every night where we just have fun together. But there is also just a ton of sacrifice that's involved. And so I want to share a little story here of something that my husband did for me. On the night that we got married, we were at our wedding reception, and my husband, we weren't going to do a garter toss. We talked about it. We're like, yeah, it just doesn't feel like us. But a garter toss, that symbolizes erotic love between the spouses. So we were just like, nah, we're cool without it. But my husband chose to surprise me with something really different. He actually asked me to come sit down in the middle of the dance floor, and he brought out a pitcher of water and a bowl, and he took off my shoes and he washed my feet. And that symbolic gesture, there it is. And yes, I was wearing blue sneakers. Okay. I wore them to my wedding reception. And the reason was because I wore heels for the wedding, and then I wore sneakers for the reception because we did this epic around the world first dance. You can go watch it on YouTube if you want to. But anyway, so he took off my blue sneakers and he washed my feet. And the symbolism of that is washing the feet of Christ, washing his apostles' feet the night before he gave his life for them. When you enter into marriage, you enter into self-gift, and the world is going to tell us that sex is a performance, that you have to try before you buy, you should cohabitate. My husband and I waited until we were married to have sex, and I have to tell you, like, it was such a good decision. It was really hard to wait because we were obviously very, very attracted to one another. But the line that we drew for ourselves was that we were going to kiss, but we weren't going to French kiss. And that was because we wanted to pursue chastity together. And we knew that if we were French kissing, that was going to lead to other things. And so we really we drew the line at that for charity, and I look back now and I'm so glad that we waited. Like, the world's going to tell you a lot of lies. Like, you have to find out if you have sexual compatibility. And I'm like, you know what? When you've made that commitment to a person, you figure out sexual compatibility together. And sex is a gift to each other. It is self-gift. It's not a performance. And if you're sitting here tonight and, and you've made mistakes already and you've done things that you regret, like, God can make all things new. He can, you can start waiting for your spouse today. Just go to confession and just decide, make a pledge that this is something that you're going to strive for. And it is so worth it for the right person. So I'm going to just encourage you to make a gift of yourself now. Make a gift of yourself. I find that, like, endless scrolling on social media, like, that makes me really insecure. It makes me feel like I'm missing out on everybody else's travels and relationships, and my life should be something different. When I put the phone down and I actually go and serve someone and take the opportunity to volunteer and make a gift of myself, not only do I feel better and feel good just about life and about myself, but it's also wonderful practice for my future vocation. It's everything that I look back, like, anytime I took the opportunity to do a mission trip when I was single, like, I look back and I can see the fruit of that now in my marriage. It was a gift to my spouse. Anytime that I was proactive in making a gift of myself, I see it paying off in my married life now. And certainly with my husband, with his discernment of religious life and all of the service that he took in, and all of the waiting that he did for me, that is an incredible gift to me. And the fruit of that we see in our marriage every day. There's a lot of grace there. So I'm going to let you go with that, because I know I'm already a little bit over time. But I guess just to quickly summarize kind of the takeaways. Spend quality time with Jesus. Increase your relationship with your beloved. Get to know his heart. Let him pursue you because he wants to. And the second part is root yourself in your relationship with God. Read scripture as though it is written for you, because it is, and you will find promises written in there. You will find that God has made promises of his presence and his peace to you. Declare those promises into your life and watch him fulfill them. And then third, make a gift of yourself right now, starting now. You can have happy singlehood. It's not always easy, but with good friends and a good support system, it is totally possible. So so I would love to take any questions.
Thank you, Stacey.
Yeah.
Awesome. If everybody could give a thumbs up or a emoji sign or something that we heard your yay.
Thank you.
Your message is awesome, and I'm following the chat line, so I'll just go ahead and pick a couple out myself and throw them your way. Here's an easy one. Somebody wants to know what your kids' names are.
Yes. Okay. Raphael is my son. So we named after Saint Raphael the Archangel. And then my daughter's name is Azalee. So you all know Saint Therese of Lisieux, right? Like, awesome saint. So Saint Therese of Lisieux's mother was named Saint Zélie, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard of, but her full name, which not a lot of people know, was Azalee. Oh yeah, there I see Pablo's got the book. Super Catholic alert. So we named her Azalee, and it's a real name. It's not something we made up.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
during your time in, this is from Gabriel Blank. During your time in professional theater, how did you juggle your faith with the somewhat anti-life culture? And I assume this could relate to being in any kind of work, but maybe particularly within the arts.
Yes, definitely, particularly with the arts. There's very much a culture of, if you don't agree with us, we don't accept you, that kind of thing. It was tricky, I would say that was part of the reason eventually that I discerned that I was not ultimately called to stay in theater, is because it was difficult. I happen to be, so in New York City, there's an incredible young adult community. So I used to go to young adult masses. I sort of treated theater as my professional self. And then I treated my church friends as I would hang out with them to strengthen me. I had a very strong community. Like, you can't do it without community. You can't. And so I had to very intentionally seek community. And I would say that goes for any profession. When I was on tour with Beauty and the Beast, it was a very difficult time because I went to mass by myself for 11 months. Like, thank God I never stopped going to mass, but honestly, my faith life did not grow just being around that environment. And I backslid some, and it was just it wasn't good. And that was part of the reason why I discerned, I don't think I'm really called to this. I don't think I'm really called. I need a community. And my spiritual director told me that, he was like, you have a very sensitive heart. You sort of pick up whoever's around you. And so he said, you have to be really intentional about fostering community. So yeah, I think that's a rule for life. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Michael Abrigo said, what's a good way to practice dying to self before I'm even dating?
Oh, okay. If you have little siblings, great way to practice dying to self. I would say, so one thing that my husband really does that I love, is he will ask me, he will look out at what I'm doing and he will anticipate my needs. So, and I love that so much because he'll notice, like, it's almost dinner time, and he'll say, like, oh, would you like help with dinner? And that takes like mental work. You can't just kind of float through life doing that. So whoever's around you, whether that's your friends, if you're just like, really pay attention to what is going on in their lives, pay attention to where they are, and then like ask them, hey, can I help you with this thing that you have coming up? That is gonna that's like next level. People will feel so loved if you anticipate. And it's not like you have to like just be doing things for them all the time, but just paying attention to all of those little things. And then another thing that I think is really good is with that paying attention piece, follow up on people. Like, I love it when I've told my friend something a week ago, and then the next time we meet up, they're like, hey, how did this go? And it's like, wow, you really listened. You really care. And so I'd say, like, follow through on your commitments and try to anticipate people's needs and seek opportunities outside of yourself. There's a ton of service opportunities around, not at the moment, but find them where you can. And if you're stumped for ideas, just like pray to the Holy Spirit, and I think he's going to give you an answer real quick.
All right. Okay, I got another one here. Marie Heisler said, how did you know you were following God's will?
Well, that is such a great question. Okay. I'm trying to think how I can just like condense this. Okay. The first most important thing to do is surrender your will. This is really hard for me because I really like being in control. Raise a hand if you like control. If you like to know the plan, right? Don't we all want to know the plan? And so for the first time in my life, when I was like 25, I finally was told by a I finally went to confession, and I was like, I don't want to give God my life because I'm really scared to, because I think that if I give God my life, he'll take away everything that I like. His will is going to be something that I hate. It's going to be like the stigmata for the rest of my life. And so I went and confessed that, and the priest gave me a prayer of surrender, and he encouraged me to pray it slowly every day. If you guys go on my website, I have a conference right now called the Be Not Afraid Conference. You can just type my name into Google and you'll find it. And if you sign up, you'll get all of the materials. But on that day one page, I'm sorry, this is a little convoluted. On the day one page, you'll find that prayer of surrender, and pray it really slowly, because that puts you in a position of receptivity to the Lord, of saying, okay, Lord, what do you want for my life? What did you dream of when you created me? That's like the first thing to do. And that's not a one-time thing. Like, I prayed this prayer every day for weeks, and I would like do the ugly cry. Like, I hated it so much. It was like scraping wallpaper off a wall. Any of you people who grew up in the 90s and scraped wallpaper off walls, which is probably none of you, but that's fine. So yeah, surrendering, you guys are so young, surrendering to God's will first of all, and doing that on a daily basis. Every situation, say, I surrender it to you, Lord, and let him show you. And then as far as like, I know I'm taking such a long time to answer your question. It's just such an involved question. And then I discerned religious life. So I did something about it. I wasn't sure what God's will is, so I took action. And I went ahead and I visited convents. You know, there's only so much you can learn by like sitting in your room with a candle lit, you know, listening to Gregorian chant. And so I actually went out and did something about it. And then I still wasn't sure. And so I felt this desire for marriage. And this had been a year of me discerning religious life. And so I felt a desire for marriage. So I finally said, okay, God, I've given you, you know, I've done something about it. I've surrendered. I've been building my prayer life. I'm going to go ahead and give you one more month. And if at the end of that month, I still want to be married, I'm going to just be open to dating again. And by the end of that month, after, you know, really putting intentional time towards prayer and trying to stay close to the Lord, I felt very confirmed and at peace in my desire to pursue marriage, because I had put myself in that position of receptivity. So that peace was confirmed when I met my husband. Yeah, we got engaged 5 months after we met. It was just like a lot of yes along that trajectory. So it's a beautiful thing. Yeah. And I was a mess. Like, I went all over in my 20s, you know, it's not like it was like, oh, my life was great. But it, like, once we did meet, it was quick, and it was so much simpler, so much more peaceful. Yeah. Than any relationship previously.
All right. Thank you. I think that is going to be our time.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry. If anyone has questions, you can come to my website and you can ask me questions. It might take me a little while to get back to you, but I have a podcast where I talk with all sorts of different Catholic speakers. Do you guys like Father Mike Schmitz? Yeah, he was on my podcast. So come on over to my website, check it out. That's an awesome episode. You should check it out. But I've had a bunch of really great people. If you want to ask me a question over there, because I know that we like didn't get to everybody. Pedro says, who's that? Please, Pedro.
Oh, God.
Are you serious? Anyway. Anyhow. So yeah, so come on over. The podcast is named Called and Caffeinated. I'd be happy to answer that on the podcast or just like right back to you. So yeah.
That would be awesome. And I did put your website on the chat. So StaceySumereau.com. And that's awesome.
Watch the spelling.
Yeah. That's right. You got to know how to spell Sumereau. But it'll come up. So thank you for being with us.
Pleasure.